A still autumn morning settled over the Sicilian port of Messina. Fishermen pulled in their nets as sunlight shimmered across the water. One of them glanced towards the horizon and spotted sails. Ships from Genoa approaching silently. He wiped his hands, lifted his arm in greeting, but no one waved back. Curiosity drew him forward. He boarded the creaking stairs of his ship and called out. Then the air struck him, a thick, putrid stench that made his stomach turn. It was the smell of death. Scattered across the deck were bodies, twisted and motionless like broken dolls. Some were lifeless, others shuddered, their skin darkened and bloated, their limbs grotesque. He stumbled backward, choking on the smell, heart pounding. These ships had brought more than goods. They carried death. In the coming months, entire towns would disappear. Millions would perish. This was the Black Death, the plague that consumed half of Europe. The year is 1347. Europe is bustling, its population larger than ever before. Cities swell with life. Paris, home to some 200,000 people, is the continent's biggest metropolis. Centers of learning thrive. Bologna, Oxford, and Paris attract scholars and students from far and wide. Philosophers argue, scientists examine the natural world, and Gothic cathedrals rise skyward, testaments to human ambition and faith. Yet, underneath this vibrancy, death lingers. The climate has cooled over recent decades, triggering crop failures and famine. The Great Famine of 1315 to 1317 claimed millions. Malnutrition weakened the populace. Urban streets are crowded and filthy, and medicine offers little protection. Yet, in 1347, Europe thrives. Life continues unbeknownst to the deadly threat quietly looming on the horizon. Far away from the hustle and bustle of medieval Europe, in the remote mountains of Central Asia, death looms, unbeknownst to anyone. In 1338, near Lake Asekul of modern-day Kyrgyzstan, tombstone inscriptions tell of entire communities wiped out by a mysterious disease. Modern research identifies the culprit as Yersinia pestis, a bacterium transmitted by fleas that infested rodents. But in the 14th century, the bacterium mutated into a form deadly to humans, shedding its nascent roots. From these isolated steps, the plague began its deadly journey along the arteries of trade. The Silk Road, once a lifeline of silk and spices, became a highway of death, spreading infection from Central Asia to China, India, Persia, and by 1940s, reaching the Crimea on the Black Sea. In 1346, the Genoese city of Kaffa on the Black Sea faced the Mongol siege. As the Mongols camped outside Kaffa, the plague tore through their ranks. Soldiers fell ill, their bodies covered in black sores, dying in agony. In a desperate terror, the Mongols catapulted their infected soldiers over the city walls, carrying with them a silent killer. The terrified Genoese fled by ship, carrying with them seeds of catastrophe. The Genoese abandoned their city, fleeing by ship, carrying with them the rats and fleas across the Black Sea towards Europe. The plague was on its way to Europe. In October 1347, 12 Genoese ships docked at Messina, Sicily. Aboard, men barely clinging to life were covered with boils and coughing blood. Those who stumbled ashore carried death with them. Within days, the plague devoured the city. The authorities, desperate, ordered the ships to leave, but sadly, it was too late. From Sicily, it surged along trade routes to Genoa, Venice, and Marseille, then spread inland, riding with travelers, merchants, and pilgrims. Wherever it touched, death followed. Lucia, a mother in Messina, wrote in her diary, "My husband is gone, my children cough blood, the neighbors do not speak, only the church bells toll." Between 1347 and 1352, the Black Death swept across Europe. No city or village was spared. In Florence, Rome, and Paris, corpses piled in the streets. In rural towns, entire families vanished without a trace. Historians estimate that Europe lost between 1/3 to half of its population, some 25 to 50 million people. The death toll was so immense that villages were abandoned, fields were untilled, harvests rotted, and livestock wandered untended. Across the continent, it felt as if death itself had claimed every corner. The plague struck in several terrifying forms. The most common, bubonic plague, brought swollen, blackened lymph nodes, painful buboes in the groin, armpits, or neck. Victims endured fever, chills, vomiting, and unbearable agony. They won't survive the week. In its pneumonic form, the infection invaded the lungs. Victims coughed up blood, spreading the disease through the air. Death would arrive within 24 hours. The deadliest was septicemic plague, where bacteria flooded the bloodstream, turning the skin black as tissue rotted. This form was almost always fatal within hours. Medieval medicine offered no remedy. Doctors turned to bloodletting herbs and bizarre potions. Some gave theriac, an 80-ingredient brew that included viper flesh. Others rubbed onions, herbs, or even a pigeon's backside on the buboes. It did nothing to stop the plague and often worsened the suffering. The social fabric of Europe was destroyed. Families abandoned the sick, priests refused last rites, and law and order collapsed. Chroniclers describe carts rumbling through the streets, piled high with corpses dumped into mass graves without ceremony. One lamented, "Fathers do not see their sons, nor sons see their fathers. Charity is gone, hope is dead." Monasteries emptied, churches fell silent, and the church's authority, powerless against the plague, crumbled. The feudal system began to fracture, the countless peasants dead, labor was scarce, survivor wages rose, and many even fled the land in search of a better life. By the early 1350s, the Black Death slowly started to lose its grip. Those who survived emerged into a drastically different world. Though countless lives were lost, new opportunities presented themselves. Labor shortages gave peasants newfound leverage to demand better wages, and some gained freedom from serfdom. The trauma of the plague echoed through art and literature. Grim visions of death, dancing skeletons, and the dance macabre dominated paintings and poetry. The church, weakened in the eyes of many, faced demands for reform, while science and medicine, humbled by their failures, began to embrace observation and evidence. From the devastation of tragedy, the first seeds of the Renaissance were planted. The Black Death, the deadliest calamity of the Middle Ages, claimed millions of lives and tore institutions apart. Its scars would last for centuries, yet from its devastation, a new Europe began to emerge.